It's fully threaded radio. Unthreaded.
Hi, everyone. Eric Dudas with you once again, coming to you from semi-rural Northeast Ohio. This episode of the Fully Threaded Radio podcast is a big one. It's a conversation with a true legend of the industry, the publisher of Link Magazine, Mr. Leo Coar. It's been a long time since we talked with Leo on the podcast, and during this conversation, we cover a lot of ground. I think you're really going to like this one. He's been in the industry for many, many years. Link Magazine is going on 48 years, and he started that well into his career to give you an idea. During that time, he's had many various endeavors, both inside fasteners and in some other surprising ways that he'll touch on. He also touches on his thoughts about the industry in general, where it's been, where it's headed. He even speculates on the impact of AI on fastener distribution. Tell you, this conversation headed off into some directions I really wasn't even expecting. And towards the end, you'll hear a rather abrupt change in direction right as he's finishing a particularly poignant commentary on this particular stage of his career, if you want to put it that way. And we had a little technical glitch, so you'll hear the conversation reset. It's a little abrupt. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that because I really didn't get a chance to react during our conversation. And when we reset, well, you'll hear what I mean. Leo Coar, amazing guy. Someone you should know in the fastener industry for sure. This episode of Fully Threaded Radio, as well as all the others, is made possible by our partners. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio, Star Stainless, Global Fasteners, and Brighton Best International. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, the International Fastener Expo, J. Lanfranco, MW Components, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry USA. This episode is set to publish on June 24th, 2025. Once again, I think it's probably one of the most important episodes we've recorded in a long time. I know you're going to enjoy it. Thanks for clicking in. Here now is my conversation with Leo Coar. Leo Coar, good to have you on the podcast. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Boy, it's been a while, Leo. I was looking back at the Fully Threaded webpage, and believe it or not, 2017, it was episode 112.
Wow, time goes fast.
You find yourself saying that more and more these days?
Well, I'm just hanging in, so whatever happens, happens.
I hear that. I think that was kind of the message last time. You were fairly optimistic about the prospects for the little guy, and we were talking a lot about small fastener distributors at that time. We'll touch on that a little bit more today.
I'm a little worried about them right now, to tell you the truth.
Well, lots of stuff going on that I don't blame you about that. Let's bring everybody up to speed with where you're at, though, right now before we get into it. You're down in Naples, Florida?
Yes. We've been here about 35 years.
Uh-huh. Before
that, we were in New Jersey.
All right. So refresh my memory. What caused you to make the move?
Well, I was having breathing problems up there. And I was a manufacturer's agent. I wanted to get out of that business. And we had a aluminum fastener supply and a magazine. So we decided to move the family down here. The air is better, and it's much better here.
Well, it served you well, 35 years. Actually, last time I saw you, it was down in Naples. It was 2019. Right. When you and Tracy rented that yacht and took the NFDA out on that dinner cruise. That was an amazing day.
That was a nice night. Yeah. Good night.
Of course, we see Link and the whole team at all the shows, and you guys do an amazing job. Ironically, though, I'll just mention this very quickly. We just came from Fastener Fair in Nashville, as you know. Of course,
Yes.
Your team was there, Tracy and company. And the show was co-located with an aluminum show, yet no sign of aluminum fasteners.
No, I knew that show was going to be there, and I talked to them about going, but there's so many things. How many things can you go to? But I think that show might be good for us. I don't know. We sell distributors, so how many distributors would be at the aluminum show? I'm not sure of.
Yeah, I don't know how many people make the connection between Link Magazine and Aluminum Fasteners, the company we're talking, not generically, but that is a core family enterprise, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's almost 40 years, some odd years in business, back then I took a look and see what could I be in, what kind of a business can I be in that the big guys aren't going to chew me up. And I saw that nobody was really concentrating on aluminum fasteners at the time. And Alcoa had like they had 20 distributors. But they told all those 20 guys they had to buy a certain amount of fasteners to be a distributor. So they all bought the same thing. So we walked in and they wouldn't give us the line. And so we bought all that inventory from all those distributors. And ultimately they went out of, they didn't bother with them anymore. We took over the aluminum fastener business in the States here. So it's been good for us. It's a small business, but a good one.
Well, that's the important thing. So when I was talking with Tracy in Nashville and we cooked up this idea about getting you back onto the podcast, and by the way, I really do thank you for being here. You know, we communicate here and there. Of course, I work with you on the magazine a little bit, and
Right.
I've been sort of badgering you to do this for a while. So thanks for finally jumping in. But Tracy was telling me about some of the amazing things that you did before you got into fastening. I mean, you've had several different careers. I wonder if you could just give a quick punch list on that, because I think it'll amaze people.
Well, you know, they all happened as I was in. I've been in the fastener business since 1954. And, you know, I come out of the Navy and I was actually going to make the Navy a career. And all my friends came home at the same time. We had some good parties. So I thought, well, let me get a job and see what happens. I applied for a job at Southern Screw Company. And the girl who interviewed me, she was assistant manager there. She's been my wife for 68 years.
How cool.
So we hooked up, got married, and it's been great. Good family. And they trained me at Southern Screw to run one of their 4 warehouses. But there was only 4 warehouses and not a lot of warehouses opened up. So a lot of things I did after that, I did at the same time I was in the fastener industry. I just did them at nights and weekends, you know. And so when I did that, and I was playing hockey at this rink, and it was going. The guy didn't want to own it anymore. He was going to go bankrupt. So we bought it. A couple of hockey players and myself bought it, and we ran it for 20 years. Had one of the best hockey programs on the East Coast. You started 5 years old. You can play till you're 80, and we did, and it was great. A good story about that, though. We tried, you know, we had, when we bought the business, we didn't have a lot of money, and we had to cut the ice. We had a Jeep and a blade, and it took us forever to cut the ice, and it wasn't great. The ice wasn't great afterwards. I called Frank Zamboni in California. I said, you know, Frank, I got no money, but I need a Zamboni to make this thing work. Because every 2 hours you had to cut ice. And so he said, well, I'm coming to New York and let's talk. So I met him in New York and talked to him for about an hour, hour and a half. And he sent us a free Zamboni.
Wow.
And he said, I'm going to make you I'm going to make a loan for you in the bank, but I'll pay the loan. And until you guys get established and you can pay the Zamboni off. And that we kept that Zamboni for 20 years. The best thing we ever did, best thing he ever did. Ultimately, we paid it off, and he was a friend for a long time till he died. So, you know, you can't run a Madison Square Garden didn't have a Zamboni. I had a Zamboni, and Madison Square Garden didn't have one. They had a union problem, you know, but that was just, you know, that was just one of the businesses that I was a policeman. I was a volunteer guy, you know, in the town, a small town I lived in. And they came to us one day and said, you know, we don't want to hire full-time guys. If you want to be a policeman and, you know, fill in, you're already trained. So I said, fine. So two other guys, myself, became regular policemen. Did that for about 8 or 9 years. So all my other things got a little too involved, and I had to drop out of it, you know, but it was a good time for all those years. I'd work at 4 to 8 at night, 4 to 12, 12 to 8 in the morning, weekends. And so it was good. It was just small town, one cop on a desk, one or two cars on the road. And we did it for a long time. It was a lot of fun, and it was interesting. Met a lot of people. Sometimes not the kind of people you want to meet, but it was good, though. Yeah. So, you know, I've been in a bunch of businesses. I started, I was a rep, and I didn't get a branch from Southern Screw Company. There was only 4, and I didn't get one. I saw that it wasn't gonna be for me, you know. Then it would take too long, so I became a rep. And then I became a national rep. I had a national rep organization for years. And then 74, you were in the business in 1974, it was the best year we ever had. 75 was the worst year we ever had. The country was in a recession. The fastener industry was in a depression. And so I had to close the national rep organization up because the companies didn't want to pay commission. And a lot of companies went out at that time. They just couldn't sustain it, So I kept thinking, what am I going to do now? So around 75, 76, my sister-in-law, Mary Ann, who you might know, she became my partner in the magazine. I decided there was no magazine in the industry at the time, and we decided to publish a magazine. And so she and I got together and we partnered up and we started Link Magazine. And so we've been doing this is our 48th year publishing the magazine. And it's been good for us, and good for the industry. I know what the industry needs and what they're looking for. They're looking to train their people and get them more knowledge, and that's what we do. We try to provide that for them. So that's another thing we did. And then I saw the aluminum company in the 80s, and I decided to try that, and I built aluminum, which is still going pretty strong. And I bought a factory in Detroit, nut factory, Wolverine Nut, and I knew I could get orders. We had plenty of orders. Couldn't get anybody to work. The crew I had just were terrible. And they worked there before, I hired to work for me, and they just were not good workers. Couldn't hire anybody. And I just looked at it and said, this is not good. So I closed it down. And then I built another factory, stainless steel rod, threaded rod, and dowel pins, and that was going pretty good too. And then one day I could buy finished product for what I was paying for the wire. And nobody wanted that product. All of a sudden, imports came in bad, and they took over that business. So I had to close that factory. So there's been some not good things that over the years had to close different businesses out. The rink lasted 20 years, and politics in that town changed, and they didn't renew our lease. So we had to get out of that. And I ran another rink for another guy for a couple of years. So we've done a lot of things. We kept busy for a long time. I had a football stadium and concession stands at a football stadium, and we ran that for a lot of years. That was good.
Oh, that was an offshoot of the hockey rink?
Yeah, it was an offshoot, yeah.
Uh-huh.
People we ran the rink for, they saw we were running it pretty good. They said, can you take over the football stadium? I said, sure. So, it was really football season. That's the only season we had there. So that was good.
Who drinks more beer, hockey guys or football guys?
Definitely hockey guys.
Okay.
I played hockey with a lot of Mohawk Indians. They almost beat us in the drinking category, but they were building the Verrazano Binge in those days, and they lived in Brooklyn. They played hockey in my rink. So,
well, according to legend, it takes them a little less to achieve the desired effect.
Is that right? I don't know. They were crazy guys. They were high walkers. They were walking on the bridges. Good hockey players. They could skate and they could shoot, and they didn't mind hitting you. So it was good.
Takes a lot of guts to play hockey in a serious way in those minor leagues. Well, it takes a lot of guts to do a lot of the things that you did. And thanks for that summary. It's an amazing one. I didn't quite know all those details either, even though I was familiar with some of them. But I think people listening right now are going to be very impressed because, let's face it, everybody in the industry at one point or another stumbles into Link Magazine. And you said 48 years, which, congratulations. I'm really looking forward to seeing the stops that you guys pull out for 50. And yeah. I'm expecting some centerfolds there, by the way, Leo, hint.
Okay.
But I don't know of what, but
I always want to do that. And Tracy always says no.
well, again, I didn't say of what, but I like the way you think. So let me just make sure that I understand this before I ask you a fastener related question on all that. The Zamboni year, what was that? Do you remember what year it was that you got it?
That was in the early 70s.
Okay.
And we ran it for 20 years.
So that was around the time when the Zamboni was kind of taking the NHL by storm. Is that right?
It was. He was the only guy that came up with a machine
right.
that give you pure ice in one roll around the ice rink, And like Madison Square Garden didn't buy a Zamboni because the union said it's going to kill jobs, because they would have like 10 guys shoveling the ice and between periods in a hockey game.
Sure.
And finally, they got a Zamboni in. They actually got 2 Zambonis in.
Right. Well, every rink in the country now has a similar machine. If it's not a Zamboni, I don't know what it is. But I mean, they're all using machines, but they come out and do little cleanups with shovels and make an entertainment scene out of it here in Cleveland. I've been to a few minor league games.
Oh, yeah.
They're a lot of fun. Well, okay, so that's fantastic. You were mentioning in that summary then in the mid-'70s, so 74 you had a boom year, 75 it went bust. If my history memory serves, that was just the pre-Carter years before everything really fell on its ass.
Yeah, high interest rates and 18% interest rates.
But what I want to know is, what stage was the sort of the offshoring of the fastener industry at that point? Was when the Made in Japan movement was starting, or where were we?
It was before that. Southern Screw used to put a sign in each keg said "Buy American." That did little or nothing. They didn't really see what was coming, and I don't think our industry saw it. Imports were coming in, and it was a dirty word in those days. But if the smart guys saw it coming. People like Joe McGrath at Cambridge, he saw it, and he's got a wonderful company now, and he's brilliant, that guy, and so he took over what could have been Southern Screw's marketplace, but they had a guy there that didn't respond to imports, and even though it was owned by another company, he fought them on it, and so they just closed. They just closed their business. So many manufacturers in those days just closed. Big manufacturers. So when they talk about let's reinvest in the fastener industry in the United States, not going to happen. There's nobody's going to put millions of dollars into a heading plant. First of all, you can't find anybody to work that knows that product, how to make it, and nobody even wants it. Maybe doesn't even want to. And the manufacturers that are here now, they're going to continue to do well, and they'll probably buy more equipment, but they're not going to build factories like they were then. The big companies, I mean, they were huge, and they just watched it go. Taken away from them. That's what's kind of happening now with these tariffs. The importers are getting hurt a little bit. We're all getting hurt a little bit. I'm not sure where this is going to come down, these tariffs, but it's got to hurt somebody. And I know what he's trying to do is level the playing field for all these countries, but at the same time, he's hurting the small guy too. Somebody's got to pay the price for these things, and I don't know how it's going to unfold.
Well, let's back up a second here. So when we were in the early and mid 70s, the offshoring was in full force. It started really in Japan, at least that was in a lot of people's minds. And of course, now it's centered in China. But
it's going to Vietnam.
Right. It's elsewhere, put it that way. But there came a time when the new version of the fastener company was a master importer, right? And what I want to ask you is, when was the high water mark for that from your perspective? In other words, we had a Porteous, we had a Heads and Threads, there were others. What was the high water mark? And then when do you think it really reversed?
It was in the 70s and the 80s. They came on strong, and they took over the business. And it is today. They own it today too. So, and Japan, you talk about Japan, they didn't want to make standards anymore. They wanted to make specials, and so it went to China. And China doesn't want to make standards anymore. It goes to another third world country, and you see India and Vietnam. They're making all the standard products now. So it just keeps going to a third or fourth level country. It's easy to make. And the prices. If you ever see those factories over there, the prices the labor is cheap and the prices are cheap too. So,
well, let me come back to that though. When do you think was the high water mark for that master importer?
I think by the 80s they had taken over. It started in the 60s, 70s, and by the 80s they owned it.
Now, who was the first giant to fall?
Well, there was a lot of Rockford products. I represented Rockford. They were one of the best factories I've ever seen. They were huge, mostly specials, but they made standards too. And a lot, there's a lot of them. Even the ones that are left are less than what they were. Where do you find people who are going? They had some of the best workers I've ever seen. These factories, they would sit there and teach you. As a rep would go in and they'd sit there and teach you, show you what was being made, how you made it, and quality control. It was great. Great factories. There's still factories in the country here that are doing well, but on standard stuff, it's all imports.
So the heyday of the master importers, and I'm talking again when Reynolds was big, Porteous, Heads and Threads. Those must have been great years for Link Magazine.
It was good years, yeah, and they eventually sold those companies off to other people, but it was good for us. It was good for the whole industry. Was doing well with it, So it's not just us. Everybody was doing well.
How did you recruit all the writers that you get for Link?
Well, I knew everybody. Like Tracy knows everybody now. She likes everybody. When I was rolling,
well, everybody likes her. That's what it is.
It is true, and she's a wonderful person. She has the heavy load here. She does everything. I come in and make mistakes.
You're cracking the whip in the background.
No, not really. She cracks the whip with me. She fixed my errors, But we knew everybody. We went to the trade shows were great. We did trade shows too. Marianne and I, we ran regional trade shows around the country, different locations. But when it moved to Vegas, when the Columbus show moved to Vegas, that was big. McGuire and Bannister, they ran a great show, and people loved going. In the early years, they didn't want to go to regional shows. They wanted to go to Vegas. So we kind of stopped doing that. We did that for a number of years. That was fine. It was fun. Helped the magazine, it helped the industry and the magazine. We had some good shows, good locations.
Do you remember the first year that NIFS was in Vegas?
I don't. I don't remember. But it was, Columbus was the place. I don't know if you ever went to Columbus, but it was the place to go for a show. And then they got bigger, and I don't really know the reason that they left Columbus, but they probably tell you. But when they moved to Vegas, it got big. It was a good show.
Well, that would have been, I think, because Vegas kind of cannibalized Columbus, and there just wasn't enough energy in the industry at that time to keep them both going. And it was clear that Vegas was more popular at that stage. I was able to go to Columbus, I think the last 3 years that they had it. So I'm going to guesstimate, don't hold me to this, but I'm going to guesstimate the last year of Columbus would have been about 2009.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't remember the exact year, but those were great years in Columbus. They were great years, and they ran a good show. But Mike and Bannister, they knew how to run a show, and they ran it for a lot of years in Vegas.
But they had American, or not they, but McGuire had American Fastener Journal. Did you guys always get along, or did you butt heads? I mean, you were direct competitors.
Mike and I were very good friends, and then we had a little falling out, and we're friends again. He wanted to do a magazine. He had his idea for a magazine. It wasn't the same idea I had for mine, and he's been successful with it. Sold it out to Fastener Technology, and those guys run it good too. So it's a different, even though it's the same marketplace, it's a different view. I think we're more technical. We like technical articles, and we strive to get those kind of articles, and we do well with it. I'll give you an idea. When our magazine comes out, we get 50 to 70,000 hits when it comes out. Bosses tell their people, read the magazine. It's this knowledge that that you're going to read and you'll remember, because at some point you're going to be faced with it. You have a customer that has a problem with that, and so they do. They make their people read it.
Right. Well, if they're smart, they do.
Yeah, they do, and they do. It's like almost required reading.
Well, I'm going to ask you again, though, how did you recruit some of your writers? Because that's not an easy thing to do. I know personally, trying to get people on the podcast, some people really want to come on, which is great, and I appreciate it a lot. But there's a lot of folks that I'd like to get on, and for various reasons, they just want to hold that knowledge closer, or they just feel like they're not comfortable sharing it. I mean, do you find that in your business?
No, we share anything. We try to help people.
Well, I know you do. I'm talking about authors that you recruit.
No, I have great authors. We have wonderful. You've seen the authors we have. They're just wonderful people. They great writers. When I started the magazine, I wrote all the articles, but I don't have
Wait,
the knowledge.
you wrote all the articles
In the first years, yeah. And I would travel to a factory and we'd interview them for an hour and a half or so, and I'd write an article about them.
Under your own name?
No, I wrote under about 5 or 6 different names.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And, yeah. So there's some stories about that.
Well, yeah. Do you care to share any of those?
we had one writer that was and we got a complaint on one of the articles, and I saw, I said to the guy, I told that guy, me, to not do that kind of thing. I'm going to fire that guy. So I fired him, me. We didn't use that name anymore. But in the early years, it wasn't easy to get writers. Now we have wonderful writers. They're just great guys with a great knowledge of this fastener industry, far better than I've ever had.
Okay, so if somebody submitted an article by Herbert P. Pinglefinger, would you accept it, or would you immediately smell a pseudonym there?
Well, we'd go in and find out. But the thing is, we know everybody.
Right.
We know just about everybody that writes. I have 30 people I call. And we get the magazine, the articles we get. So and so, like, every writer doesn't write for every issue, but. Like, you've written a couple of my articles, and they're great. So we try to keep it to a guy who wants to talk about his own business, or try to help guys out starting. We got a couple of inventors this issue, and that's coming out, and so we try to get people that have something to say about the fastener industry that would be interesting to the distributor out there.
Regarding all the photos that you have in every episode, that's a big hit. Everybody likes to see their picture in the magazine. When did you start that?
We started out in the beginning. The first magazine, we had pictures. We had in those days we had a guy, Louis Venn, working with us, and Marianne and I, and Tracy came on 26 years ago. We all had cameras. That's what we do. We go to NFDA meetings at the shows and just take picture of everybody and send them a copy and use the other copy for the magazine.
So in all those years, did you ever get any complaints, or did you ever get anybody in trouble inadvertently?
No, we're very careful about that. I know where the trouble is.
As far as you know, right?
As far as I know where it is,
Okay. Well, I'm surprised to hear you say that, but I guess I'm not really. But it's a pretty clean industry, actually. I mean, there's really not that much scandal swirling around. Believe me, I've looked for it, and I don't see much of it. There's a little, but not that much. We don't air it, as a rule.
I don't either, and I know a lot of it. What's the point? There's no point in writing stuff about that. There's always a scandal if you're looking for it.
Right. Well, it's just the way you want to present things and the kind of clicks you're trying. Well, nowadays we call them clicks. I mean, you're in this media business. It's a fastener-centric media business. I mean, that's what Link is, right? And so you've been operating in this very rapidly changing environment, but you've kept really the same model. Of course, you have a website. You've got the digital version of the magazine. Any idea on the readership, digital versus good old-fashioned hard copy these days?
Well, like I said, we get hits about anywhere between 50 and 70,000 hits every time the magazine comes out on digital. So that's big time. I look at that as big time.
Yeah, no, that's real good for this industry.
Yeah.
How many fastener distributors do you think are in North America? Do you have a feel for that?
We go out to less than 13,000. So it's, what we're seeing is people selling their magazines not their magazines, their businesses. A lot of sales, and you see it yourself. A lot of people selling their businesses, and businesses getting bigger, but they have bigger operations. Financial people are in there. They like this business. We get that call all the time. Do you know who's for sale? And do you want to sell? They're all financial people. A lot of those guys went bust years ago. They bought distributors and and they didn't have the money to back it up. That went through our industry. Now there's a lot more money out there now. People, they're buying companies, they have money, and they're stronger than they were then. We've gone through that period in our industry where the people wanted to buy distributors and thinking it's a great industry, and it is. Then they get in, they screw it up.
I mean, for the guy who knows how to do it the right way, you think there's still an opportunity for that little guy?
There's an opportunity right now.
Is there?
Absolutely. There's people who want to, there's a lot of people that are reaching an age where they don't want to own the company anymore. They want to retire. They're in their 70s. They stayed too long. I'm 93. I stayed too long. So it's, but it's a great industry, and I don't travel anymore, but I'm here every day for a portion of the day. So like me, there's a lot of people out there that want to sell their companies. You just got to know who they are. And you don't want to turn somebody over to them that doesn't have the money to back up what they're trying to buy, And I don't think there's a lot of cash sales right now, not so much, buying it on the future. You give you stock, buy it, and you give you stock, and then the company goes under. You lose everything. That happens a lot here,
Leo, a few minutes back, I wanted to ask you about this, but we kind of meandered off. But returning to this idea about when you were playing hockey and you said you had this rink and it was for like ages 8 to 80, it reminded me of an old timer fastener distributor who you may know because he's from out east and we go way back with him with FCH. I'm talking about from American Imperial, Jay Mont. You remember him?
Well.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's he's got a unique company there. He's got thousands of items in stock, and he's been around a long time, and he knows the industry pretty good. And I as you said, I think he sold the company and living somewhere in Florida, and hopefully we'll get a hold of him here shortly. He advertises in our magazine. I don't know if the new guy is or not, but Tracy deals with the new guy.
Well, I know that he made a sale. He's still working for the company, and I'm not even sure if he's keeping the name. But Bobby Wasner, his key guy, is still there, which that was a requirement, because I don't believe they had all their inventory even, in a database. I think they managed that thing pretty manually. They may have updated that at the time, but Jay and Bobby, man, they were a team. And of course, what made me think of it again is Jay was playing tennis, and I'm not sure if he still is because I haven't talked to him in a year or so, but he was playing tennis up until his late 80s.
Yeah. I never played with him, but I knew he was a tennis player. I played a lot of tennis back in the day.
Is that right?
Yeah, I played hockey and then I played tennis.
Yeah, you were quite the athlete. Well, maybe. Do you ever get into any mud racing?
No. I know you do that, right?
Well, in a way, yes. I'm involved with it, but that's a whole nother animal. Maybe if you were 10 years younger, Leo, I'd be actively recruiting you, but I think I'll give you a pass. All right.
Yeah. I don't fly anymore. I don't get on airplanes anymore.
Right.
I don't travel well. My wife doesn't either. She just turned 90 and she went back to college. She's going back to get her degree.
Is that right? In what?
Just a degree.
General studies, huh?
Just studies, and she's a smart woman, and taught me a lot over the years, and it's been a good marriage.
All right. Well, that's amazing. I guess that's the way to stay young, be athletic up until your late years or for as long as you can. Keep learning, stay active, keep your mind and your body active. Unless she's going for her law degree, then we can talk offline about that, Leo, but good for her.
No, she's not going for a law degree. She just wants to get a degree.
Got it.
And it's just something she always wanted to do. And she's raising kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and involved with the family. We have a big family. And so at this moment, she decided to do that. And it's a lot of work. She spends a lot of time at it.
Well, older students tend to be pretty good students because they take it so seriously.
She calls a professor and said, "What do you mean I didn't get 100?" He gave her 92 or something like that. She called him on it, and he said, "Well, when I correct the disc, I'll upgrade you again." She said, "I know the answers are right." Tough student.
Oh, I love it. Well, okay, so let's backtrack again. So when we were talking about the beginnings of the trade shows, you said you were doing a couple shows. You were doing regional shows.
Yes.
When McGuire and Bannister started. And then when Columbus got really big, American Fastener Journal was rocking. You guys were rocking with Link. So were you allowed to even attend those early shows with Link magazine? I mean, how did that all work?
They were open to, both Bannister and McGuire were open to our being there, and they were competing. They were competing against me. I wasn't competing against them. So it was good. Bannister's always run a good show. Everybody is welcome. He knew how to run a show.
Yeah, well, he was ex-military. He ran it like a ship.
He did. He didn't take any crap from anybody.
No.
He was a tough guy, but he was a good guy. You knew the show was run right when they ran it, both of them.
What was your favorite thing about those shows that is missing from the current crop of shows?
Well, going to those shows is just spending 2-3 days meeting people and maybe a golf game thrown in. Those are good times. There's a time to sit, have a drink with a guy, or just sit and talk at the booth. You go in those booths, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. You never stop until they close the show. People come by your booth. It was always busy. So, talking was great. And that's what Tracy did. And my daughter Jill, she goes to the shows now. That's what they do. They just meet people and talk to them and like them. They like them.
All right. Well, and I agree, but we still have all those things. Is there anything from the old shows that's missing that you think they should bring back?
Well, they have the Hall of Fame thing. I don't know how that runs now. Who runs it? Not sure who runs it. That was a good thing. The Hall of Fame.
When did you make it into the Hall of Fame?
In 2014.
I remember that.
That was good. That was nice of them to do that. I mean, I was a competitor, so, and they still gave me Hall of Fame, which is great. I appreciated it.
Well, it's been done pretty fair and square. Those first early years, I think it was just McGuire and Bannister and, I don't know, maybe one or two other guys and a bottle of scotch, and they would put a list together, but they had to really get the thing off the ground. And
well, in the early years, we were contributing the names to a lot of people.
Yeah.
We knew everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And who was good, who did something special. And in those early years, there were some good guys that went in there. Yeah, they're now, too. I know there's a lot of people who still want to get in it, but they feel that it's not right to put their own name in.
No, you can't really lobby for it. It doesn't look well. It doesn't look good.
It's like belonging to Augusta. You can't say I want to be a member.
Right. Well, now, I remember you, I'm sure you don't, but I remember the first time I met you, it was at the Vegas show. And Brian and I had just launched the FCH Sourcing Network. It was Fasteners Clearinghouse. And we bought I believe it was a 1/4-page ad. And I wrote an article. And you want to talk about pseudonyms. I used a pseudonym for that first article. I can't remember my reasoning behind that. Trivia question. If you could remember the name that I used, I know you won't, but anyway, I did use a pseudonym, and I remember walking up to you and I said, I'm going to pay this guy for our ad with a check that I'm actually going to hand to you. And that's what I did. I walked up to you at the booth and I handed you a check in an envelope, and that was how we first met.
I don't remember that, but that's not unusual. A lot of guys did the same thing, and we booked a lot of business at those shows.
I bet.
Your business is good business now?
Are you asking?
Yes.
Oh, it's on fire. I mean, we're doing things that we never imagined that we'd be doing, in ways that we never really anticipated, but it's always exciting. And, it's hard to watch certain parts of the industry struggling when you're benefiting. But I mean, I don't think we're taking anything away from anybody. I think the chaos is helping us because we're getting inquiries like you can't believe.
Right. Well, that's what's happening today. Yeah.
When you first saw FCH, what was your first reaction? I mean, the basic idea in our earliest version wasn't unique. We were trying it in a slightly different way, but did you have any impressions when you first?
Well, we were going to do that. I was going to do that at one point before you did it. I was thinking about doing that in a different way, because digitally, we knew who the customer was. We knew where to get inventory, and we knew how to buy the inventory from the people that didn't want it anymore, surplus inventory. But we didn't go that route. I don't know why. Maybe I was just busy.
Maybe you took a close look at it and said, "This is a trick bag, man. We better steer clear."
I think a lot of people wanted to do that, try that. They wanted to get in that business, and they didn't succeed for one reason or other. They went at it a wrong way, or I don't know why they didn't, but you've done it right.
Well, part of it is that we're not concentrated on surplus or odd stock. I mean, that's a chunk of it, and that was how we got a toehold, but if we were relying on that alone, we would not be where we are, believe me.
Right.
Do you remember Manufacturer Fastener World?
Fastener World?
Yeah, well, Manufacturers Fastener World up there in Michigan, the giant warehouse.
I don't know those people, no, but I know of them.
Okay. I thought maybe you had some impressions, because I think out of anybody, they're one of the best known, at least in the Midwest, of a company who just bought a ton of that material, and they made a pretty good go of it for a lot of years.
Yeah, there was a guy in Chicago did the same thing, and I forget his name now. Back in the day, he had surplus inventory and runs. He'd buy the end of a run or something. But they went out. They don't do it anymore. But they try. It's not that it hasn't been tried. It's just that they didn't succeed in it. A lot of them didn't succeed in it. Not the easiest business to be in.
No, it's its own animal. Okay, so that was your idea when you first saw FCH. So what did you think when you first learned that there was a podcast for the fastener industry?
Listen to every one of your podcasts.
Say that again. What?
I listen to every one of your podcasts.
Wow, I'm honored.
They're good podcasts. Good. You get to hear people that you haven't seen or talked to in a long time, and it's a great podcast.
Appreciate that. Do you have any memorable episodes?
Not really. Not that I want to bring up today anyway. A lot of times the memory fades on me. I'm doing all right, but the past is when I was so active, around the country, go to all these manufacturers, and I knew everybody, and it's kind of sad that that the end is coming. My fastener end is coming, and it's life, So, but we got good people here. Marianne left a great daughter here, Tracy, and Marianne passed away about 12 years ago, and she was great. And Tracy's even better.
Before we close out, we were talking at the beginning of the conversation about really a harder time, and we've been through so many changes. You were telling me offline that you really see some changes ahead, and you have a few ideas about what the fastener industry might look like as we are going down this road, at least a few hunches, let's say. Care to share any of those?
Well, I think on the supply side, those guys are going to get bigger and bigger. They're buying up companies, and they're getting bigger. So that's a change. They're going to get stronger, and they could do a pretty good job. Now, whether the financial people who own them are going to sell them, I don't know. But right now, these companies are looking pretty good.
Do you see any specific opportunity areas for guys who may be listening in here and they're hungry to go off on their own?
If it did, I'd start it myself. There's always opportunities. You got to see what your market is like. And I look at when I started these companies, I looked at the market and said, who's in the market, who's doing what, and can I be better? I work harder. Can I work harder and be better than them? And some didn't work out, some did. So I had a pretty good life in the fastener industry. So I don't know what I would do now if I were a young guy in this business. I don't know what I would do, where I would go, where this tariff is going to leave us, what's going to happen. Distribution, is it going to be as strong as it's been? I think it will be. But will it be down in the future? Who knows,
Have you given any thought to this whole AI movement? I mean, is that a world that you pay any attention to?
I do. I bought books to read it, and I'm still confused. I think on one hand, it's a wonderful thing. On the other hand, it's a dangerous thing. As you know, you can call AI up, get anything you want. You want an article? Get an article. You're stealing from your own writers, so I would never do that. But this AI is going to be something else. They claim that pretty soon we'll only work 2 days a week. Well, that gives people like me an opportunity to be a winner again, because I'll work to 5-6 days a week, and so will a lot of other people. I don't know. AI, I don't know where it's going to go, and it's scary. It scares somebody like me. I saw an ad the other day, not in the fastener industry, but again, an ad the guy made up all on AI. Real people, just real people, but they weren't real. You got to worry about that.
Well, you're the publisher of a magazine, and it would shock me if you hadn't received a few articles that you take a look and you say, something's not right with this. And then you come to realize this whole thing was created by AI. Has that happened to you yet?
No, it hasn't, because I know my writers. I know the people who write, and they're not going to do that. They're the people you steal from, and they're not going to do that. They're wonderful writers, just wonderful. They got a talent that's unbelievable. So I don't see that happening. I've seen enough articles that from AI that you see, you kind of see that it's not right. I haven't gotten any yet, though.
Okay, so if there are any young aspiring fastener authors out there, then the message from Leo is don't send any AI for the moment. And is there anything that you are looking for, be it organically generated or maybe just a touch of AI, let's say, okay? Let's throw them a bone, Leo.
I'm always looking for good technical articles. I love technical articles. And as long as I can back up the guy who wrote it, and back up the company that it's about, I'll publish it. I like them. I seek the technical articles all the time. And I get them. There's always something new coming around.
Should the young aspiring authors, the previously mentioned guys, should they regard that as an open door to submit to you if they've got anything?
Oh, absolutely. We're always looking for good stuff, always looking for good articles. And we have great writers, as I said before. So, a guy's got an article. When I get an article in, I look at it and I check and see where it came from, who it is. And then if it's good, I'll put it in.
Do you ever reject articles?
Yes. Self-serving guys who are, not doing the right thing, and I just throw them away.
Okay, good to know. So how do people get a hold of you, Leo?
Well, they know us. It's 800-356-1639. Give us a call. Love to talk to anybody. So,
all right, that's so hardcore old school. I love that. But LinkedIn would be another way, right?
LinkedIn, our email address is, and there's several ways. If people are in the industry, they know how to get a hold of us. But 800 works too.
Fair enough.
I like to talk to people, and I like them to call me, and then we can go from there.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me today, Leo. I appreciate you listening to every episode of Fully Threaded. I didn't know that, but I'm honored.
It's good stuff. Really good stuff. Podcast is great. It's great for our industry too. People listen to it, they'll learn something,
Right on. Okay, Leo Coar, you're the publisher of Link Magazine. You've had a lot of different lives in the fastener industry. I wish you many more and appreciate you being here.
Hey, thank you, Eric. Thank you, and thank you for letting me be on the podcast. Love it. We'll be talking to you.
Talk to you next deadline.
Okay. Yes, get it in. August 1st.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse.